Hi there. Would you like to see how used to grammar structure is used in practice? Great. This is how you do it. 1. Watch this video, and before each part, 1 to 2, check if you know all of the words and phrases from the list. 2. If you don't, you can use our Quizlet course to learn them. It is available in 6 languages and it's for free. 3. If you know all of the words and phrases, just listen to the stories. This way, you will practice used to grammar structure, vocabulary, and listening skills. These stories come from this book, so if you like books or need the vocabulary lists and stories in a paper form, you can get the book on Amazon. Link in the description. Are you ready? Let's start. Part 1. Used to. I used to. Story 1.
Albert, 45 years old, Germany. I used to be very shy as a kid. My family and I used to move around a lot because of my mom's job, so I was always the new kid in school. It was really hard for me to make friends, and I was often too scared to talk to people. I used to avoid speaking in class as much as I could. I was embarrassed because other kids used to joke about my accent and about the way I pronounced many words. Every time they did that, I used to hide behind the teacher and cry. My parents noticed it. I was sad and had very little confidence, so they started looking for ways to help me. They found a local theatre group and wanted me to join it. I used to refuse to do it for weeks, but then I finally decided to try. I'm so happy that I did because I met so many nice kids, practiced speaking in public, and discovered my talent for acting. Today, as an adult, I am much more confident than I used to be when I was a child.
Story 2.
Melissa, 29 years old, USA. My sister Fiona used to have such a poor diet when she was in college. She didn't have much money, so she used to eat a lot of junk food simply because it was the cheapest. She wasn't great at cooking and didn't have a lot of time to prepare her own food, so she used to skip meals and eat 3 or 4 quick snacks a day instead. Because she also used to have a sweet tooth, she used to buy lots of candy and chocolate and used to eat it mostly in the evenings. I worried about her health, but she used to ignore my comments for a long time. I was surprised when she called me and asked me for help a few months later. I decided to start teaching her how to cook healthy meals that were cheap, easy, and quick to make. She started making them regularly and quickly noticed the positive results of her new diet. Now, 6 months later, she has much more energy and feels better than ever. She eats much less candy than she used to, and she doesn't miss it.
Story 3.
Andrea, 26 years old, Portugal. As a little boy, my brother Nico used to be afraid of dogs. When he was 5 years old, a neighbor's dog bit him in the arm. That experience was so scary that Nico couldn't forget about it for a few years. He used to panic and scream every time he saw a dog, even if it was small and calm. My parents used to avoid taking him to places where there were dogs, but that didn't help much. I think that it only made him more afraid because he didn't have a chance to see that not all dogs were aggressive. One day, I suggested that we should take him to a dog shelter. My mom thought that it was a crazy idea, but we decided to try. We used to go there once a month for more than a year. I used to slowly introduce Nico to small friendly dogs. He used to run away at first, but he became calmer and calmer with every visit to the shelter. Today he is not scared anymore and even wants to adopt a dog in the future.
The end of Part 1. Part 2. Used to. What did you used to do? Story 4.
Veronica, 46 years old, Slovakia. When I was a child, my brother and I used to spend hours playing outside. We used to invent all kinds of games and activities, so it was never boring. We used to race in the garden and compete with each other to see who was the fastest. We were both very competitive, but we didn't use to argue. We loved adventures, so we used to go to the woods behind our house a few times a week. We used to pack snacks and water bottles and disappear in the woods for an hour or two. Our parents worried about us a bit, but we were always careful and protected each other. Every summer, we used to go camping with our Uncle Martin. He used to teach us how to fish and build a campfire. We used to stay up late, sit around the campfire, and tell each other ghost stories. I had such a fun childhood.
Story 5.
Carl, 29 years old, Norway. I used to collect a lot of things as a teenager. CDs, DVDs, posters, comic books, magazines. I was very proud of my collection, and I used to invite my friends to my house after school just to show it to them. I used to lend some of the CDs and DVDs to my best friend Henrik and borrow his favorite books. We both used to read a lot and talk about books a lot. We often disagreed, but we always recommended new books to each other. I don't read as much as I used to, but I still have some of the books that I borrowed from him. I'm sure that he still has some of my CDs too. Henrik and I also used to go to parties together, and we used to smoke. It made us feel like adults, but we quite quickly realized how stupid that was. Being a teenager wasn't always easy, but it definitely was an adventure.
Story 6.
Marie, 53 years old, Austria. When I was in my 20s, I used to live in Barcelona. I used to wake up very early and go to a small cafe called Ruma's. I don't drink coffee anymore, but I used to love starting my mornings with a cup of cappuccino and a fresh, buttery cookie. The waiters and waitresses at the cafe knew my name, and they used to greet me with friendly smiles every time I walked in. In the afternoons, I used to walk around the city a lot. I didn't used to take a bus home because I loved walking slowly and discovering new places every day. On Friday evenings, I used to go to my favorite tapas bar with a small group of friends from work. After a delicious meal, we used to have a drink or two. We always had a lot of fun together. It was almost 30 years ago, but I will never forget my time in Barcelona.
The end of part 2. Great job completing all of the stories. Well done. You've practiced, used to, grammar structure, vocabulary, and listening skills. Remember to review the words and phrases you've learned. Try to review the vocabulary every day. Even 5 minutes per day will make you better. And continue learning with our stories. Here are some that you might like. Happy learning.